at you. Good Monday, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Yes, he is back. He is in studio after being on the road, being Hollywood, being an angler, making all kinds of money. He is back in studio. He's going to talk about it. Matthew Pangrac. Dude, I missed you last week.
That might have been a little bit of an overkill introduction there.
You can talk a little louder.
Went and did some work with FLW, did the FLW live event that was held on Grand Lake, and then went and fished the FLW Costa on Kentucky. It was about a week and a half away, but I got a chance to listen to the Brian Latimer interview that you did last week, and dude, the guy hit it out of the park.
He's
He did
awesome.
a great job answering him questions, and it was one of the... I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to that interview. Have not gone back and listened to the Hank Cherry one yet, which was also a timely interview after his great top 10 performance on Lake Hartwell last week in the Elite Series. But yeah, it's good to be back.
All right, all kinds of stuff to get into today. We're going to get into Matt's last week and a half. We're going to talk about this week, a first for 2019. We've got all three major organizations taking place, a triple dip this week, Matthew.
Major League Fishing on Lake Chickamauga, the Bassmaster Elite Series on Winyah Bay, and the FLW Tour on Cherokee Lake in Tennessee. So we have two events going on in Tennessee and one event going on in the ocean.
Yeah. partly the ocean. All right, today, great show. We're going to talk about all that stuff, but kind of a surprise guest. We're going to have the man that got it done on Lake Hartwell, Brandon Cobb, getting it done on the Elite Series, event number 3, and in back-to-back events. I've said this all along, Matthew. It kind of sucks when you win the first one because everybody just kind of moves on. So,
well, I don't think he moves on.
He actually delayed going to Winyah Bay one day, and we're going to have him live via Skype.
Practice started this morning on Winyah Bay. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if that's an event where you can just kind of go out and find fish. I think you decide, well, I'm going to fish here in this tournament before you go to a tournament like that. So maybe it'll play into his advantage being from South Carolina. We'll have to ask him if he already knows what the heck he's doing. If he might not even need to practice tomorrow. Maybe he could do some more media interviews, go out, check his stuff for half a day on Wednesday, go to the meeting, and then get after it.
I'm going to tell you right now, nobody else knew what to do on Hartwell like this guy did. Wire to wire, and he has had an enormous amount of success on that lake. Did you look at his FLW stats?
Yeah, I did. Over $400,000 in earnings. Actually did, before all this went down, I've done a Bass Zone article that I don't know even if it's out on the internet anymore, about how consistent he was, over 30 top 10s. The guy's young. He's just around 30 years old. And then with this $100,000 win at Bass, pushes him over $500,000 in career earnings in professional bass fishing between the FLW circuits and the BASS circuits.
All right, so we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to go ahead and go to Brandon so he can get on the road and get to Winyah Bay. Let's bring him in now. Brandon, you there, man?
I'm here.
Hey, I know the phone's been ringing off the wall, text, phone calls, and all that stuff. But, man, I greatly appreciate you taking time out. I know the fans do, on taking some time out to talk about your win on Lake Hartwell. So, outstanding job, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was about as perfect of a week as it could go.
Interesting. I want to kick it off. I was watching live, and I'm interested in getting your feedback on what you did on the final day. You mentioned that you did something that was kind of different at the beginning of the day, and you felt like, all right, I know I can go somewhere and catch them, but you said, or you talked a little bit about that you did something different to start off the day. What was that, and why did you do that?
Yeah, well, this time of year, we're always on the borderline of the herring spawn, and it was at Hartwell anyway, and I knew it was within days of starting, and when I put the boat in Saturday morning, I noticed the water temperature had got up to almost 64, 65 in the morning, and that's usually the break point to where the herring start spawning. So I wanted to run that first because the herring spawn is one of those things to where when they get there, you could catch 15 to 20 pounds in like 10 minutes rather than having to spend all day to do it. So I ran it all morning, and for some reason, I still don't know why, the herring were spawning. It was pretty good, but it was all stripers. So I don't know why there was no bass up there yet. But it was one of those things. It was worth the chance to try. The part of the lake I was fishing is one of the earlier areas the herring spawn, and once I saw the herring on the first point, I had to run a few places. I haven't really been – I wasn't catching any fish before about 11 o'clock that I was weighing anyway. So it really wasn't like I was wasting time. It was more or less just I was waiting.
All right.
Brandon, I need you to be honest with me for a second here. You've got the Visit Anderson logo on the bottom of your jersey there, which is where Lake Hartwell is located. You look back at your resume, you have 5 top 10s and BFLs with 2 wins in March and April on Lake Hartwell. You're coming off a great event on Lanier, so you have the momentum, and then you lead this thing wire to wire and decide to just try some crazy stuff and still end up winning. Was this, and I don't want to use the word easy, but was this an easy win for you?
No, I definitely wouldn't go as far as easy. The thing about Hartwell, what's always makes you uncomfortable fishing almost this time of year, I do about the same type of fishing every time I go there this time of year, and you really don't know when you're going to catch an over a 3-pound. Like, if you notice, some people weighed in 5s and 6s, but there's not a lot of 5 and 6 pounders. You have to catch a lot of 3s to 4s to have a good bag. And you do the same thing all day, you might catch 42 pounders, or you might catch 5s, 3.5s mixed in with them. So it's always kind of, you don't know exactly. I always expect to have 11 to 12 pounds, but on the good days, you have 15 plus.
One of my counterpart, Mark Jeffrey's favorite saying here is the KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And I've kind of been following your career and watching you, and I watch how you perform in the Forest Wood Cups in the past, and then how you fish Hartwell on here. And it seems like you almost have kind of like a Brian Thrift thing going on, where it always looks like you're just like throwing a wacky worm or reaction bait and going down the bank, and bam, there's a 4, bam, there's a 5. You're one of the only guys who has a limit, and you make it sound so simple, kind of the, oh, shucks, man, I just got lucked, there you go, lucked into a couple of those 4 and 5 pounders. Do you feel like you keep your fishing pretty simple like that, or is there a lot of thought process behind what you do? Because a lot of your good finishes, it seems like, you seem to just kind of go down the bank, but I'm guessing there's got to be a lot more than that with over 35 top 10s to your name at such a young age.
No, I definitely do keep it simple. I've always thought that the fish are not as smart as we give them credit for. That's kind of my theory behind it. And I kind of more or less I just fish things like during tournaments. The tournaments I do well in anyway are where I'm fishing things that I just am going to try to catch one, not because there's really a reason to it necessarily. I mean, yeah, I fish stuff that's the correct type of structure or cover for that time of year, but I'm just going to let's go catch it. And that's the way I fish.
All right, I have a question. A lot of sight fishing going on in this event, and one thing that you mentioned, your execution all week long was flawless. You didn't lose one fish. I want to ask you about the time that you spent sight fishing, and you kind of limited it, or it didn't surpass the 10-minute mark, I think is what you said. Is that kind of the norm when you're sight fishing in a big-time tournament, Brandon?
It not necessarily, not if I find a really big fish or if I already have a solid limit. Then I'll spend as long as it takes, But the ones at Hartwell, it's just I never really found like big fish. They were all like 3.5 pounders at the good ones were. So it was kind of one of those things. If it wasn't a fish, most of them I ended up catching. That was fortunate in that circumstance. But if it didn't look like a fish that was going to bite in 10 minutes, there was a better chance of me finding another one that would rather than getting that one to bite in the next hour or so. So I would just move along to another one.
All right. For the fans and really for me too, why the wacky rig?
Well, I've always found that the wacky rig, so I caught most of my fish that were actually, I was sight fishing far when I was like power pole down fishing for them on a shaky head.
Okay.
But the wacky worm, I've always found that if I throw to what looks like likely beds, I guess you'd say, like if it's a place I think there's a bed ahead of me before I get to it, I figured that I catch the female more times than not before catching the male with the wacky worm. And then that's the hardest one to catch. So you got her out of the way. Then you just catch the male and move along.
Why? Why do you catch the female in the wacky worm more often?
I don't know why. It's just more of a reaction type thing. I think I don't really throw past and drag it up to what I think's the bed. I kind of just throw, or if I do throw past it, I kind of reel it up to it fast and let it fall. And I think it's more of a reaction bite because I throw a horny toad and a floating worm like a Zoom trickworm methylate a lot in the same circumstance. And in both of those baits, I also usually catch the female. So it's kind of the same presentation. I use the Cinco or the wacky worm, the fluke stick, as a reaction.
Do you have a lot of crap in your boat, or do you have I picture you as having 5 boxes and 30 rods, but only 5 boxes of stuff in your boat for tournaments? Or are you a dude who's packed to the gills?
I've got a bunch of Zoom worms, but as far other than that, no. This time of year, I just I go pretty light. I actually eliminated about half the stuff out my boat before the tournament started at Hartwell. So.
How many boxes? Could you put a bunch more? How many boxes did you have in your boat?
I probably have 15, 20.
Oh, okay. So he still has a lot. He didn't go straight I'd be Casey Ashley will have 5 or 6 Plano boxes or whatever.
I'm really organized. I'll have 4-foot crate baits in a box, 5-foot crate baits in a box. That's what I do, so I don't have to have them all in there. So I ended up with too many boxes.
Okay.
All right. There was a scene from live on the final day. You were fishing a bedfish, and it looked like that the gallery that was watching you in the boats, they stayed way, way, way off of you. How was it the entire week, especially with you having so much history on Hartwell? What were the crowds like? And from what I saw, man, they respected you a ton.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was. I was a little worried. I don't know if you followed the Forest Wood Cup the other year at Murray. It actually kind of made it hard for me to fish the final day. I had so many, and I was worried about that coming into this one, especially Saturday with the nice weather. And honestly, I had probably 25 boats at one point, but everybody was real great. I just told everybody, if I was fishing down a bank in a tight pocket, even some of the media guys and everything, they all stayed on the bank I'd already fished. And it was never one time had a situation where I think it hurt me.
All right, Matt, we don't talk about tips and techniques and a lot of this stuff. We're starting to get into it, obviously, with so many tournaments taking place. But I'm curious because of some of the footage, Brandon, I looked at some of the banks that you were fishing, and to me, and maybe this is just an Oklahoma thing, but they didn't look like typical spawning banks. They look like just do-nothing banks where you'd be like, well, why are those fish spawning there? Was that the case? And is there something that you could pass along to the fans from a spawning standpoint on when they're looking for beds that don't discard some of the areas that you may not think have beds when they actually do?
Yeah, that's something that's a little different on Hartwell and Lanier and Clarks Hill, all these just typical lakes in this area. The fish literally the whole lake is a spawning area, if that makes sense. There's no really rhyme or reason to it. There's just I tend to try to stay near the main lake because I feel like you can run into some post spawn fish up cruising and things like that too. But as far as the type of bank, Hartwell in specific, I was fishing just a lot of stuff where I've seen a lot of fish in the past. Because, the section of river I fished, over the past 15 years, I've probably fished almost every square inch of it. So I was just really fishing a lot of banks that were, I know, banks where I've seen big fish in the past or multiple fish in the past. And some of it was also heron-related banks, too, where I was waiting on the heron to spawn and hoping some post-spawners were up there.
There you have it.
So there's 73 guys out right now that are practicing for the next Elite Series event to win another blue trophy and another 100,000. And it's not like a tiny fishery that we're dealing with. You're dealing with porpoises, dolphins. I don't know if there's walruses in that area, saltwater, rivers, long runs, Winyah Bay, and it appears to be in your tackle room talking with us at Bass Talk Live, which we really appreciate, by the way. But are you basking in the victory? Are you confident with what's going on? Are you trying to get rejuvenated? Because, are you going to get on the water today? What's the game plan?
Yeah, I was waiting to do this interview that I'm leaving. So I'm trying to get on the water this afternoon. I waited for you guys, but it's only about 3 hours down there for me. So I'll be there mid-afternoon. And I didn't get back to the house till 8:30 or 9 last night. There was no way of getting prepared. And it actually, staying at home this week worked great for Hartwell, but it actually kind of backfired on me for going to Winyah because I didn't get packed and prepared to leave. So I had to kind of work on all that. So I'll be down there this afternoon casting.
All right, man. Early thoughts on Winyah. What's your history with that?
There's about zero. There was about 4 days of pre-practice before it went off limits, and that's it.
Wow.
Is that one of those fisheries that you just don't really go to unless you have to? Kind of like us with the Arkansas River in Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't think I know anybody that's ever fished there that lives in the state of South Carolina that so I don't think the Cooper is a good place, but it's also about 973 miles from the boat ramp. So I don't know how the Winyah system is. I haven't been there in pre-practice, so I'm gonna go check it out and we'll see what happens.
I'm getting a text from Geddes here, who's saying that you weren't waiting on us, that you just wanted to sleep in this morning.
I didn't. I wish I could have.
Is it one of those deals though, where after your homework you kind of know what you're going to do regardless?
I've got a good idea of what I want to do. Now, whether or not I have to check to see if it's the way I anticipate it being from pre-practice. But I felt like I got to see the place pretty well. Not that it seemed simple down there necessarily, but it didn't seem like there'd be a lot of places that fish lived. So it seemed like it'd be hard to catch them, but there wasn't a lot of what looked like good fishable water to me. So it's a huge place, but just getting to places seems like the problem.
All right, yeah.
It's in the kitchen. You want me to get it?
No, I just thought you might have put it somewhere. Where's it going to reside at?
It's going to go in my trophy case with all my other trophies over the years, but I actually don't think it's going to fit, so I'm going to have to remove a shelf. Yeah, it's pretty big. And it's a lot heavier than I expected.
That thing is heavy.
See, FLW still gives out trophies even when you don't win. Bass is just like, thanks for coming out, second place. Get off the stage. FLW, at least you get like the little red FLWs, and for all the Costas and the tour events, and then your BFLs, you get the little bronze fish. So you probably have a lot of hardware.
I've got a good bit of FLW hardware. It's accumulated over the years.
All right, man. We greatly appreciate you taking time out. Long week ahead of you. Be careful, and hopefully we'll see, man. Back to back. Has it been done, Matthew, on back-to-back events in the history of the Elite Series?
Yeah, I think. Did Skeet do it, or did Kevin do it?
I don't know.
Someone surely won.
I know
back
the
to
very
back.
first, the one that comes to mind is the very first one where Remitz won.
But he got second in the next one.
And he was leading after like day one and day two, and we thought, holy moly, he's going to do it at the very first one. I don't know, man. Brandon, if you can get that done, that would be freaking awesome.
It's a long shot. I feel like I'm giving everybody a head start, but we'll see what happens when I get down there. Maybe it'll be where I want it to be.
All right, man. Great job. Congratulations on the win, and good luck to you this week, man.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me on.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. You too.
See ya. There you have it. Brandon Cobb taking time out. Greatly appreciate him. And greatest HFA? Once again, we're going to cross that question once again.
Yeah, Hartwell, when you get to the herring lakes, especially in transition times, it's very apparent that the anglers who understand the herring and how those lakes set up, if you'll notice, I know we had Brian Latimer on, and if you'll notice, a lot of the Carolina guys do really well in Oklahoma. And I was actually watching Brian Latimer's recap of Grand Lake on the way here, and he talked a little bit about it, talked a lot about it on the show too when he had it on last week. But there's a lot of those similarities between the Oklahoma and as far as kind of the lack of grass. Now I know they got the dog fennel there out at Hartwell with the flooded water, but the lack of grass, the docks, the rocks, the transition areas. But then you throw that hitch in there with the blueback herring. And the guys who understand that and how it affects the movements of the fish really do have an advantage. And you saw it with Todd Auten with Good Days, and Shane LaHue and Matt Airy, and obviously Brandon Cobb, and even Micah Frazier. And then go back to the classics with Casey Ashley. You got Jason Williamson. They're all those South Carolina, North Carolina, North Georgia guys who really understand the herring really have an advantage. Now, I don't think there's any herring in Winyah. Not the bluebacks. Not the bluebacks.
Smelt, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to take a break, come back, get into all the other stuff we need to address here on a Monday. Back in studio with Matthew. We'll be right back.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO. Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4-strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
All right, we are back on a Monday, kicking off the week. A good week, Matthew. Tomorrow, it works really well last week with Hank Cherry during practice.
And then he has a top 10.
So tomorrow, we're going to have Miles Burkhoff on live from Cherokee.
Second time in a 2-month period.
Yeah, but dude, he's rocking.
He's catching them. He's top 10 of the Angler of the Year in
in fifth
FLW.
place.
Yeah.
So we're going to have him on. He's going to be live from the water. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have John Cruz live from Winyah Bay and kind of fill us in on what's going down with the event number 4 on the Elite Series. So another good week. And then next week, I'm going to be flying solo again. You're going to be down in Alabama, and we'll have plenty of time to discuss that. But right now, a number of people on the instant feedback, they want to know. They want to know what the heck happened. They want to know what it was like doing live. They want to know what it was like fishing a very, very tough Kentucky lake. So just dive right in there, man. Why don't you talk about what it was like being in studio, and then we'll roll right into what went down at Kentucky Lake.
Well, it was kind of tough the first day because we had like 3 live catches because Grand Lake was so tough. I mean, it was tough for those
Stingy.
FLW. We're talking about the FLW Tour stop last week on Grand Lake, the one that Jeremy Lawyer won, throwing a spinnerbait behind docks. Brian Latimer had a great finish there. You talked to him about it afterwards. But I was co-hosted in studio with Travis Moran at FLW Live. They're doing 3 different co-hosts this year. Myself for the Grand Lake, and then Todd Hollowell, the Red Gold Tomatoes Pros fished on tour, and then a throwback with Peter T. Jumping in for a couple of them. So this was mine, and dude, it was pretty laid back. I was actually, I mean, there was some pre-production stuff as far as how it went, but I mean, it was kind of like put the earpiece in and 3, 2, 1, go. I had to kind of have a couple things set up for some graphics that they were going to come to me to, but I did a lot of homework there. Brad Hallman helped me out. I talked to him a lot. I actually talked to a couple of the different anglers that I called during practice leading into it. That Skeeter that was the week before, where Billy Lemon caught 27, Andy Littlejohn had 22. I know both of them. I called both of them, talked to them leading into it. So I had all my bases covered on that, thanks to some local anglers and FLW Tour guys. So I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was fun. It's amazing how fast, an hour goes on BTL and 6 hours goes when you're watching live. I would really like to have the opportunity to be a part of one that's a slugfest, that's a catch fest. Because in all reality, it was, skip a spinnerbait behind a dock or a crankbait, make 3 cranks, and Matee or Lawyer has the fish in the boat. I thought that tournament was really unique because you got the guy from South Africa, Latimer, talked about on his spinnerbait, the white blade, and then Jeremy Lawyer, that willow leaf with the white and chartreuse combination, that all 3 of those guys kind of figured it out for the top 10. It's just weird. It was just kind of crazy to me that, like, okay, here's a fish on a dock on Grand Lake, and like they won a painted chartreuse and white blade. Like, why like why that combination? Because it was number 1 and 2, they tied for the lead, and Lawyer won. So but then went straight from there to Kentucky Lake, and dude, I did this one different, Mark. I got my ass kicked at Lake Amistad, and I started chasing stuff. I talked to a lot of guys down there. Nothing wrong with that. I worked it, but I wasn't able to compartmentalize. So I said, I'm staying by myself. I'm not talking to anybody. I have no idea. And I'll say about a month or 3 weeks, a month before the tournament, I'm not going to lie, I called up Mark Menendez. He's caught a few fish on Kentucky Lake, Mark.
Yeah, just a few.
And I said, dude, I don't want waypoints. I don't want anything. I just want some generals, as I know it's been tough down there. And he gave me a few generals. Big spinner bait. Here's a 20-mile stretch of the lake that has historically had a bigger population of fish in it. So I had a general starting point, but I didn't have, go here and throw this or do that. So I talked to him for he talked to me about kind of the water level and how this time of the year they typically draw it down to winter pool and then start bringing it up. So even if they're on the current, there might not be any current, just general stuff that really ended up helping me. So I went into practice. I'm rooming by myself. I have no idea what's going on. I go out on the first day. I catch like one fish in the first 7 hours. And you'll see this in the AFCO Bass Boot Camp. Folks, go to the AFCO YouTube channel, subscribe, watch all that stuff there, because that's the only reason why I'm fishing these things. But so I go like 6 hours, I don't catch anything. I catch one on like my third cast, and then I do that for 6
Well, wait a minute, you kind of skipped practice. So what did you do?
No, that's what was practice. So I put it in the water,
All
I put it in Paris. I've decided I want to make that run. I'm going to run, because the lake goes reverse.
Right.
So you run south of Paris is farther away from where we're taking out of Moors at the dam. Right. So I run and I pick out an area, and this is not an area that looks like Grand Lake. And I just got done watching these guys throw chatterbaits and spinnerbaits behind docks. I'm going to pick an area that's got docks and cables and water and I do it for 6 hours and I catch one. Mm-hmm. But I come up the other side of this cove after 6 hours, and it's kind of about halfway back, and it's kind of stained water, and there's a little chunky rock on this kind of transition with a lay down on it. And I catch a 13-incher. Well, I just fished 6 hours, all this prime looking stuff, and I've caught one fish and an Asian carp. That's all I'd caught. So I catch this fish. I'm like, that's really interesting. So I pull up my map and I start looking for areas that have contours that are similar to it, because on Bass Talk Live, we had Chris Zaldane on. And what did Chris say? He said, when you're doing good and you're freestyling, you can take one bite, you can get a clue from it, you can look on your chip. And I had the C map from Navionics, the brand new one that just came out, and then also the Navionics Platinum Plus in my carbons. And so what Zaldane said was, you can pull it out and you can say, there should be fish here, 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 and here. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to do that. I said, I've listened to Chris Zaldane, I'm going to do it. So I drop a couple points, and one of them's like 20 miles further south in Paris. So I go down there, like fourth cast, I catch a 2.5, 3-pounder. Then like 10 minutes later, I catch another one. So then I bounce.
Off laydowns?
Well, no, this was off pea gravel, points.
Okay.
But there is a stretch back there. I was kind of working my way up to it. So I get to the stretch that was very similar to the stretch that was 20 miles away. And I throw a blade up there, a big spinner bait, and I catch like a 3.5, 4-pounder. I said, dude, they're in here. So then I go to the very mouth, which is like a mile away down this bank. I make like 3 casts. I catch another 3-pounder. I'm like, I found the holy grail here on Kentucky Lake.
There's nobody else around.
No one else around. Not a single person. I'm like 55, 60 miles. Probably 55
in Tennessee
miles.
somewhere.
Yeah.
All right.
So then I go the next 2 days, and I catch one keeper. I don't go back to that area. I catch one keeper in 2 days. I mean, dude, it is bad. Really hard to catch a keeper.
Yeah.
No current, nothing. So we start first day of the tournament. I'm boat 137. I got this guy. I put my motorcycle helmet on. I run down there. It goes from like a foot of visibility to like 4 foot of visibility in 2 days. I'm watching my spinnerbait come back to the boat. I'm watching my red rattle trap come all the way back to the boat. And I know I'm screwed. Because it's like the only spot I got. Like, I know they're there, Mark. So I back off. I throw a shaky head. I throw a biffle bug. I fish that stretch with a jig. I do everything I can. I get lucky. I short line a 213 on day one on a rattle trap. God knows why it decided to eat it in that clear water and why I kept throwing it. But that was all I got on. On day one. 213. Drove myself 65 miles. All the way down there, fished it for 5 hours, mad as hell that I knew the water had cleaned up, and I don't know why. I caught one keeper, drove all the way back, and was in 84th place. I was bummed, dude.
All right, here's the $2,500 question. Why did you go back?
Because I knew that the fish lived there. I was catching green fish, which tells me that they had been up there for a while. It had transition areas in it. There was no way those fish were going to leave that creek. I knew that they had to still be in there. Plus, we caught 2 keepers. I caught a keeper. My co-angler caught a keeper on day 1. And 2 keepers was pretty darn good, Mark.
Yeah, it was.
So I look and I'm thinking, well, if we get 2 more keeper bites, if I get 2 more keeper bites, that salvages the tournament. But I also knew what had been in there Monday. And I knew based on the weights, and here's the other reason I knew it sucked. Casey Scanlon, who fishes the FLW Tour, called me during practice and asked if I was catching him. Now, if Casey Scanlon's calling me, asking if I'm catching him,
that's because you're friends.
No. But that's a pretty good indication that he's not.
Yeah, but he's your friend.
How many times when you're really catching him do you really call up other people and ask if they're catching him?
No, it only happens when it's
you're
a grind.
Struggling. Exactly. So I knew it was a grind.
Yeah.
So, and you'll see all this in the boot camp.
Well, hang on a minute. Let me back up a minute. So you had no other area to go to, basically.
No, I had 2 other stretches, but no, I fished for 3 days, and that was the only stretch I had any confidence on.
So that's part of the reason why you went back.
Well, I knew
because you had nothing else.
No, I went back because if I didn't believe that those fish were there and that those fish lived in that area, I wouldn't have gone back because it doesn't make sense to waste 2 hours because I could fish a million other spots that I didn't have. Yeah. But I firmly believe that those fish were there, which was why I was so mad. I was pissed that I didn't catch them because I thought, I'm going to catch them. So I go back down there. I run back down there on day 2, and the plan was make 1 or 2 passes and then fish Main Lake, Channel Swing, Bluff Rock transition banks all the way back for 60 miles. So I was just going to go down there just to make sure because I knew that there were fish in that area. Yeah. I told my co-angler, I said, we're going to give it an hour. I said, I'm not going to die in there today, and we're going to work our way back fishing new water. Well, we get down there, like third cast, I catch a 3.5. Right off of where I said I was going to catch it. On the same laydown that I fished about 90 times. The day before.
Yeah. Good laydown.
So then we go down, I catch another one off the only set of rails in the cove, just like Grand Lake, vintage Grand Lake. So then I said, man, there's got to be another fish on that stretch with the 3 or 4 laydowns. So I go down there, catch one almost 5. So now I've got 3. I've got a keeper.
Better lay down.
It's probably like a 4.5, a 3, and a little one, and then I catch what I thought was a rat. Now this is where luck comes a little bit into play because I catch this fish that is like a 14 3/4 inch fish, and they got to be 15 all day long, 14 3/4. Yeah. But it has a broken jaw with one of those big kind of bumps on its chin, which made it 15 1/4 inches, Mark.
So you're telling me you caught one of the few fish in that lake that had a broken jaw, and because of the broken jaw,
it was 15 inches.
It made it 15 inches.
I go, there's one, and you'll see all this on the AFCO Bass Boot Camp that'll come out next week.
Oh.
And I said, no, it's a rat. And I reel it in, and I flip it in, and I said, man, that fish is kind of long. And I said, I probably should bump that one. And I bumped it, and it was like 15 1/4. It bumped easy on one side because the jaw was jutting out. So those was my 4 fish. We ended up staying there 3 hours. I ran in. I knew I was in good shape because half the first flight just put it on the trailer and headed to the house. Didn't even weigh in. It moved me up to 29th. Dude, there's times when you feel like you got like lucky and like I knew there were fish there. I'm glad I stuck to my guns. I'm glad I did it by myself that way. I wasn't influenced. And I grinded it out. I got a check, so it was a good week and a half.
Hey, man, it sets up for you very, very well. Now with the next 2 events being at Table Rock and Lake of the Ozarks, 2 bodies of water that you're really, really familiar with. So FLW Tour maybe? Championship maybe?
You know what? We've done way too many of these interviews for me to get ahead of myself, like literally thousands. I'll take it. I'm just going to do the best that I can in each event, try to catch 5 every day. And if you fish the best that you can every single day and make good decisions, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I can live with that.
All right, man, I'm going to give you some advice. Not that you'll take it because you haven't taken any of my advice ever to begin with.
And look, it's working.
Look, this is what you need to do, all right? 3 things. You need to spend a little bit of that money. You need to save a lot of that money. And most importantly, you need to pay your taxes. All right? Those 3 things right there. It has nothing to do with fishing. But, dude, I was extremely proud of you. I thought when you look at that leaderboard and you see some of the names that did not do well and you managed to figure it out on your own, that says a lot. And the fact of the matter of making the decision to go back That's what I really didn't understand until what you just said.
Well, one of the things I didn't mention was I knew that there were fish were there, but I did notice, so the water warmed up 2 degrees, so I kind of realized that on the first day, but when I got in there, they had completely stopped lowering the lake, I guess on Tuesday. Yeah. So it had 2 days. So I go back in there, it's like 4 foot of visibility, which it only had been 1 foot. Well, then I guess they started to slowly bring it back up to summer pool, which put it back to like 1.5 foot, 2 foot of visibility on Friday. So, I mean, it was a combination of things, but it was a combination of doing my homework, doing it my own way, and a couple helpful hints from Mark Menendez. He told me, hey, that big spinnerbait, I like to throw that big spinnerbait. So I went and I got some of those 3/4 ounce spinnerbaits, and I went back and looked at how the top 10 caught them. FLW does a great job of covering it, and a lot of them caught them on the big spinnerbaits that were crawling around hardwood, regardless of whether they were in Barkley or Kentucky Lake. So I was proud of myself. I figured it out. I was disappointed. Man. I feel like a little bit more experience for me, and I would have been able to expand that and had, I'll say it, enough balls to run even further south and maybe find some other creeks that would have been dirtier, that would not have cleaned up like the creek that I was in, because my creek was not a windy creek. It was kind of open. And if I had gone in and realized that, and hindsight and wherewithal have said, okay, we need to run another 5 miles to this next creek that has the same stuff, but it'll probably be a little dirtier, maybe would have picked up a couple more bites that would have had me fishing on Saturday. But all in all, I mean, when you jump 50, 60 spots on the second day on a really tough lake that a lot of guys said was the toughest tournament they'd ever fished. Yeah. No, I mean, I made about $1.50 because I spent $270 in gas those days.
As you say, it is progress.
It's a marathon, not a race.
It is progress.
I mean, it was not a failure, even though you would deem it a failure.
I would not deem it a failure.
But I didn't win. I didn't even make the top 10 mark. I caught 5 fish in 2 days.
We're not even going to go into that, all right? You caught 14 pounds over 2 days, and you got a check, and you needed that check because, more importantly, you needed the points because now you're really setting yourself up as part of the process of success.
Yeah. Now, does this mean that I'll go catch them at Table Rock and at Grand and at Lake of the Ozarks? Hell no, I might make the same damn mistakes that I made at Amistad there, but I do feel like I learned, that I progressed as an angler. It was the longest run I'd ever made in a tournament. It was over 100 miles round trip. I had to budget my time. I had to budget my gas.
You were very fortunate that the wind wasn't blowing.
Well, no, I wasn't fortunate. I would not have put all my eggs in that basket had I not been looking at the 15-day out forecast with the wind. I would have done it completely different.
But what I said was you were very fortunate that the wind didn't
Well, so
blow.
was everyone else who was running to Barkley and making long runs. I would have had a different game plan if I knew it was going to blow 20.
Else. I'm talking about you. The fact of the matter is the wind didn't blow.
I took advantage of the conditions in advance.
Which made that run much easier than if the wind would have been blowing 15 to 20. You might not even have been able to make that run if the wind was blowing 15 to 20.
But I wouldn't have been practicing down there if I knew the wind was going to be blowing 15 to 20.
That has nothing to do with the statement that I made.
And it did blow 15 to 20 on the way back on the first day. It was nasty. It was bad.
4-footers?
No. But you're going with it. Yeah. It was just rough. I had to, cut across.
How did your co-angler do?
My co-angler, the first day was in the top 50. He caught one fish.
I'm talking about the run.
Oh, well, my co-angler the second day had spent 3 years on the Bering Sea out of Dutch Harbor crab fishing.
Well, forget about that guy. He had no problem. What about day one?
I felt kind of bad for my day. He was probably 65 to 70 years old. Yeah. Super nice guy. I felt, once again, I was really glad he caught one because he was in the top 50. But I looked over and he had like the frog togs thing and it was just choking him and he was trying to hold it down. And I was like,
yeah.
But he was fine. He was good.
All right, cool.
So,
all right, great job, man.
That's the rundown of the whole deal. Now that it's a 29th place in a Costa, Mark. We just had Brandon Cobb on who won an Elite Series.
Time out though. What people don't realize is that is your first check in what could be deemed a AAA event.
Yeah, I fished 4. It was my 5th event.
And your first check.
Yeah, I went 0 for in the Opens in 2015. I was like 18th or 19th or 20th after the first day at Gibson, and then I only caught one fish on the second day. I was in good shape after all of them in the Opens, and then had a bad event at Amistad. So good confidence booster, good confidence builder.
No, that's badass, man. And I think it took a lot of guts to to go back there. Something that a lot of people, including probably myself, wouldn't have went back. Your reasoning and the work that you put in to make that decision to go back down there when you believed in what you were doing and what you did during practice, really, really cool. So we will continue to follow you and your progress to success.
Yeah,
that's how I'm labeling.
I leave on Friday for Gunnersville.
Now, the history that you have on Gunnersville, you've had success on that
2
body of
years
water.
ago in the Bass Nation Regional, I finished 4th.
The field this time, would you say the field's a little bit tougher than it was?
The Oklahoma. So this is the deal to get back to the Bass Nation Championship. You fish all year to make the state team, and then you have the regional. So you have to finish in the top of the 10 anglers that are fishing. You have to beat the other 9. I mean, it's always been tough, but yeah, I mean, you've got
is this the
4 guys on our state team.
Is this the national?
This is the regional.
Okay.
The national championship's on Hartwell.
Oh, okay.
In October, November. No, I mean, Chad Warren, who's on the FOW.
So you just have to finish in the top 2 out of Oklahoma?
No, top 1. I have to be the top Oklahoma finisher.
Well, wait a minute. They took 2 last year.
Yeah, that's because we had increased our state team size, our nation organization.
So
by
did they
30%.
announce what nation is getting those 2 spots?
No, whoever increases their membership by like 35%.
So you could
gets
get 2.
No, we
2
don't,
spots
because we didn't increase it, because the reason we got it the last 2 times was because their youth club got so increased.
Okay, so there's 10 guys from Oklahoma.
And they take the top guy from Oklahoma.
And who are some of the guys you have to beat?
Jared Miller, former Elite Series guy. John Sukup, Forest Wood Cup qualifier.
Robert DeGraff.
James Biggs, TBF, Living the Dream package winner, 2-time Forest Wood Cup qualifier.
Yeah.
Chad Warren in the Forest Wood Cup in the points right now on the FLW Tour. Robert DeGraff Reed is 20-something state team. Brock Enmeyer, the guy who was my co-angler the last time I was at Gunnersville.
It is stacked for this level. For this level, it's pretty demanding.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm field.
Planning on 23 to 25 a day to have a shot to go back to nationals.
Right.
So
This
is the one that I want. Out of all of them that I'm fishing this year, Mark, this is the one that I want.
Well, let's see here. Craig in New York from Lake Oneida wants to know, what are your goals?
My goals are to beat 9 other Oklahoma guys next week at Lake Gunnersville.
No, I'm not talking about the Federation. He wants to know
I just said that. I've taken it. My goal is I'm going to pull a Brian Latimer line. My goal is to fish my fish and fish the best of my abilities, put myself in somewhere where I feel confident every day on the water from here on out. And if it happens, whatever happens, I'll take. But as long as I know I'm setting myself up, it might not be the best bite. I knew I wasn't on it. I knew there would be a 25-pound bag at Kentucky Lake, but I'm not going to go sit out there and I wasn't going to fish Barkley. I wasn't comfortable with that. I knew there was current in Barkley. I'm not going to fish offshore on Kentucky Lake. I knew that's where the pre-spawners were. I found my fish I was comfortable catching.
Yeah, that's a good
so
job.
That's what I'm going to try to do every.
All right, a couple of things. I got a ton of emails from people that wanted me and you, Matthew, to address some rumors that are out there. And I'm going to look right into the camera and say this. Look, one of the things that I take a lot of pride in is we don't necessarily talk about rumors on this show. So much of what we discuss and what we argue about is factual. And with everything that's taken place in the industry right now, yes, there are rumors concerning all 3 of the organizations. And until something happens, we're not going to talk about it. And somebody on the instant feedback wanted me to give my opinion about some of the rumors. But you know what? I'm not going to discuss that, because if some of these things do come to fruition, it is going to have a dramatic effect on a lot of people's lives. And I don't want to speculate, be opinionated about something that is not factual. That's kind of what I've based this show on for a lot of reasons, Matthew.
That's the same thing we did before the announcement of the Bass Pro Tour.
Yeah.
So once there's something concrete or dispelled, one way or the other.
Yeah. When somebody wants to go on the record and come forth in a statement, or there is a statement that is made that is factual information, and we verify that factual information, well, by gosh, you will get an opinion from me. But until then, I don't want to say anything when it's a rumor because, like I said, if some of this stuff comes to fruition, it's going to have a dramatic effect on a lot of people's lives.
And dead nuts 100% honest, neither of us know.
We don't. And I think that's one of the good things about this show and the platform that we have is we don't talk about what ifs from a perspective of rumors. You know, we may take something that's taken place and do a what if. Well, what if they would have done this instead of doing this? Does that make sense, Matthew?
100%.
So until something happens, we're not going to talk about rumors and we're not going to throw stuff out there. We're not going to start rumors either. I've always been about the truth and the facts. And when something does happen, then everybody will get my opinion then. All right, man, what else?
Well, this is the first week. We touched on it at the very beginning of the show, but I think it's worth another mention, even though we have 2 more days before it all gets kicked off. We are going to get a inundation plethora. What's the word that you're looking for here? We're going to have FLW. We're going to have the Bassmaster Elite Series, and we're going to have the Bass Pro Tour head to head to head. And it's going to be, we've had 2. We've had MLF at FLW. We've had MLF in the Elite Series. We've had each one with a standalone event. Yeah. There are 2 times this year where all 3 are going to be going on. Now, MLF will get a day or 2 by itself, and then it'll just go up against the Elite Series. But on the weekend, you're going to be 3 screening it.
Yeah.
Unless you have a favorite that you prefer to watch over the other 2. But this is where we'll really get to see, and I would love to actually see the numbers from each 3, the unadulterated actual numbers of the live viewers and how much that pie is split. Now, are those numbers going to be bigger because everyone's toggling back and forth between, and everyone's actually going and refreshing more and going to the websites more, so they're going to end up getting more hits with FLW Bass and Major League Fishing? Are they going to go, this one is clearly more interesting, so I'm going to avoid the other 2? Are they going to stick with the one that they're loyal to? Are you going to have photos of guys who have all 3 screens up, but we'll never see those because one organization is never going to post the photo of them watching all 3 organizations. I want to see that. Send it to marketbasso.com, the photo of the 3 screens with all the different ones going on at the same time, and then which one your audio's on. Is it going to be on Zona and Sanders and Davey Height? Is it going to be on JT and Marty Stone and the silky smooth voice of Chad McKee over at Major League Fishing? Or is it going to be Travis Moran and I'm not sure if Hollowell or Peter T's doing this one over at Cherokee. So
I'm looking at the instant feedback here. Brian from Lake Norman, his comment is, what do rumors have to do with mergers, anglers, TV, and sponsors? They got a lot to do with it. And there's constantly 1 or 2 big rumors. I'll say this. I remember there was a rumor that was flying around at ICAST last year that never happened. But there were people that looked me dead in the eye and said, oh, yeah, Mark, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it never happened. And we never talked about it, and I'm not going to talk about it now. But it has a huge effect. Rumors have effects on every entity that's involved in this game, especially if they don't come true.
I mean, there was a rumor that you were in anger management counseling.
Not true.
Yeah.
Not true. What was the text that you sent me over the weekend from Steve? The drawing?
Oh, what did it say?
Yeah,
let me pull it up. So it was the guy who drew the poster, the Bass Talk Live poster that we saw at the Classic. I'll say it one more time. You can go over to the AFCO YouTube page after the show and watch the Bassmaster Classic recap, episode 6. Like it, share it, and you can see what we're talking about in there. But it's the video of. There's a little poster that he did for BTL. It's the guy who does like all the Ike Live characters and all that. Hold on. I've texted a lot of people.
He said I looked angry all the time.
Oh, this was on Twitter. Steve Donis, he's posted a picture of you, of when he's drawing you, and he goes, is it just me or does Mark Jeffries, BTL, always look PO'd off, even when he smiles? And he goes, coming right at you. He said, I had lunch with him, and he was telling jokes, but I couldn't tell if he was still pissed or genuinely happy.
Dude, you've been around me for a long time. Do I get angry? Yeah, but am I a happy person? There's moments.
Marginally.
I have moments.
As a whole, you're a half glass empty. Now,
well,
I don't know if that's because of 25 years of just getting beaten down with the corporate stick, or whether that's just how you were born and raised. Some people are naturally happy people. Some people are a little bit more pessimistic. You would like to call it realism, but you are much more pessimistic than some people. Now, that doesn't mean there's a lot of very successful people who are pessimistic or brutally realists, but you know, in this activity that we call fishing, you're going to suck a lot. And if you really take that to heart, like you kind of tend to do sometimes, it's going to be kind of a miserable existence for the majority of the time, Mark. Like you went fishing, didn't you? At Arbuckle?
I had 16 scoreable bass that I caught.
For how many pounds?
16 scoreable bass.
For how many pounds?
It wasn't a lot.
How many pounds? 17 pounds?
No, I think my biggest fish was 3.2. All bucks. Every single one of them was
off
a buck.
the bet.
No.
None of them.
No, I didn't see. And this was after Bradley went down there and just absolutely smashed them. I spent probably 5 hours looking. Oh, there's an empty bed. There's an empty bed. There's an empty bed. There's an empty bed. Oh, there's another one. There's an empty bed. There's an empty bed. It's like this one flow just happened, and then they were gone, and they didn't replenish. So I just threw a wacky rigged Cinco and caught buck bass all day long while I was looking.
But you had fun.
It was good, man. It was good. It was a good time getting away. It was take a number because it was it was on a Friday. It was the first day that the temperature got to 80 degrees when the spawn is going on. Dude, and it was take a number. I mean, it really was. There wasn't a cut, a point, a bank that you didn't either have to jump in front of somebody or fall in behind somebody. We talked about that. I talked about that in depth.
Oh, okay.
In depth on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday. Can't remember.
Never mind.
So anyway, it was a good time. All right. Going to be a while. Anyway, Charlie Harley on the instant feedback watching says, welcome back, Matthew.
Dude, Charlie's been catching giants. You need to follow him on Instagram and Facebook. He's always pulling out big, giant Florida bass.
Yeah.
I don't know if he wants me to... I mean, it's kind of known what he likes to throw. I don't even own one.
You need to get one, man. Get one.
Ask him if it's a feedback. Could I tell what he likes to throw? Is that okay, Charlie? I think our viewers would find that interesting.
Yeah, they're telling me yesterday at Arbuckle it took 35 to win.
I know.
Third was over 30 pounds, so they must have moved up. It was crazy. I went to places, you'll be proud of me, Matthew. I went to places I had never been to on that lake before.
Well, I'm not proud of you because you fished that lake for over 20 years and it's 3,500 acres. Yeah. So the fact that you fished it for that long and had not been to other places.
But it wasn't even my style where I went to. It was crazy. I was like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going.
What do you mean it wasn't your style?
That's not what I like to do. But I wanted to see. And I saw.
You hate fishing new water. I mean, dude, you catch them there in the 80s. It is your home until you die.
Oh, okay. Now, Brian from Lake Norman, he's coming back. He's like, I didn't mean it that way. Sorry.
Ooh, my dad texted me, said I need to be nicer to you.
Yeah, you're ripping me a new one today, but that's all right. I'm good, man. I'm calloused. I'm just glad to have you back. I don't know if you listened to any of the shows last week. I was like saddened by your absence. It was really hard, and to do the show by yourself, trying to multitask.
No, you did a great job. Like I said, I listened to him on the way home, and you did a great job on the Latimer interview. You pulled a lot of stuff out of him.
Yeah, it was really, really hard.
Did you get to Hank before he got the laryngitis? Or was he under the weather?
No, he was good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was good. He was really good. So, Brian, anyway, he wanted to know what the rumors were in. And really, it's industry-wide. All right, it has to do with companies. It has to do with trails. It has to do with individuals. There are rumors flying all over the place about a lot of stuff that it is what it is. Binkwood wants to know if you got a job offer. Okay. He had another comment on there that was fairly interesting too. Anyway, Let me look at the instant feedback here one more time. Jason Wilson from Arizona, elaborate a little bit because I did not catch that. I didn't see it. I didn't hear what was said, so I can't really comment on it. You can look at it after the show unless he elaborates on the instant feedback. Maybe you saw it. I didn't see it.
See what?
It was something that happened on Bass Live this weekend.
Regarding? It wasn't Blaylock's fish, was it?
No, it was something that was off the water.
That was cool, though. Did you watch
the top water?
No, were you watching that segment when Stetson catches the 4-pounder and he thinks it might be hooked outside the mouth?
No.
Dude, he handled that like a champ. He caught it, and to me, it was pretty obvious it was inside the mouth. But the hook was right on the corner of the mouth, like through the thick part of the mouth, and then it turned around and hooked on the outside. But when you unhooked it, you clearly saw it was on the inside. Takes a picture of it. He goes, I don't know. This is a 50-50 fish. Closes the mouth. Zona's going, it's good, it's good. Sanders going, it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
But he wanted to make sure, called Tripp, super calm about it. You couldn't really hear what Tripp said. His cameraman was like, I think it's good, it's good.
Yeah.
But just the fact that the wherewithal and that, with so much on the line in the tournament, that he handled it that way and that upstanding, amazing. Did a great job on it. Very
That's
impressed
cool.
with
I did
how
not
Stetson
see that.
Blaylock dealt with that.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then, he had 19 and 19 and looked like he might kind of track down Cobb at the end, but, that 13 pounds on the first day really kind of did him in.
All right, very cool. That is going to wrap up our Monday show. As we mentioned earlier, tomorrow we're going to have Miles Burkhoff on live from Lake Cherokee. Is it Lake Cherokee or Cherokee Lake? Which one is it?
Oh, God. I don't know. Cherokee.
When I was putting the preview
I just call
together,
it Cherokee.
I didn't know which one it was.
Well, we'll have to do a quick Google search on that one.
Cherokee Lake or Lake Cherokee. And then on Wednesday, we're going to have John Cruz on live on the water from
That'll
Winyah
be good.
Bay.
Now, let me ask you this real quick. Do you think the guys who fished Winyah Bay when Britt Myers won several years ago, do you think they have an advantage over the anglers, the number of anglers who have never seen that fishery?
Yeah.
Because there's like 20, 30 of those guys who have been there before.
Yeah.
That's an open playing field to them because they know where everybody and how everybody was getting it done before. They've made that run.
I'm with you, man. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out. All right, I want to thank Brandon Cobb for taking time out before his 3-hour drive over to Winyah Bay. Greatly appreciate that. Hopefully you got a little insight on what he did during his wire-to-wire victory. Matthew, good to have you back. We will be back once again tomorrow. If you're listening on iTunes, make sure you rate us and do a review. That is greatly, greatly appreciated. We will be back the same time tomorrow. We're out of here.